All right, everybody. Today, this Ghost Side's coming with a deck profile from a top at a Tennessee tournament. Can you introduce yourself and tell us what you did today?
Yeah, so my name's Chase Brinlee. My YouTube channel is Battle Ready Inc. We got third place at the PPG Case Invitational Tournament. We took yellow hybrid purple to it and changed a few things up to kind of throw some people off a little bit from a little bit of the normal stuff that you see.
Okay, okay. Uh, is there any changes that you didn't like going into it that you weren't comfortable with or anything? Or
No, and honestly, I probably went with the most comfortable thing,
okay,
instead of the more interesting things. Like particularly in the mega department, I
okay,
went with just like some simple, safe bets rather than potentially more powerful but more unknown cards.
okay, okay. Well, you can start whenever you're ready, my man.
So do that. Babies first. I went with the purple baby package, so that way we can run that purple option a lot easier. So I went with three Demi Marimon. This is just like your safe purple baby. Just it's super generic, really good for kind of just anything. And then three or two Xiaomon. Um, for mostly the mid to late game. So once you get those 10 in trash, then all your rookies just have retaliation, all your purple rookies. So you can just kind of throw this guy into anything big that might be sitting on board. It's pretty neat. I think it's a little tricky to pull off because most of the time someone's pulling out anything big and they're leaving it suspended, you're already in such a terrible position anyway that you're probably not going to have much comeback. But I will say the threat of this just being on the board, like underneath the Gazimon, just kind of chilling there, your opponent is very, very leery of swinging with their mega and just leaving it suspended, knowing that this card is just on the field ready to go. So while it might not have impacted my games directly, it still felt like it did serve a pretty solid purpose, though.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people go hit and tap for that card, especially either they're running one or they're running none. Um,
Right.
some people feel like it's not that impactful. It's one of those things. I also play yellow purple. It's probably better to have and not need it than to need it and not have.
Exactly. And I after the tournament, I kind of felt like maybe I should cut it down to one, just
Hmm.
so I can keep getting more uses at a Demi Marimon. Like I want one, just
Right,
like I said, just as that threat of be scared of it, it could happen.
right.
So. And then to go with those, we've got our purple rookies here. So I went with three Gazimon. Like this is by far the most impactful out of all the purple rookies that we can play, just because the memory blocker is so powerful in so many matchups. Where our other baby is, or our other rookie is Elecmon. So this is the on deletion, delete one of your opponent's level 3 Digimon.
Right.
It does come up, but if you're playing against hybrids and they're not really throwing out that many rookies, yeah, it's good to kill like a Bokomon, but if they're just going with all level fours, he feels kind of dead. Also, they can kind of play around him and things like that. Whereas Gazimon's just kind of live. He just has to sit there and literally do nothing, and you can get really great value out of Gazi. So um, in a like a side deck kind of situation, if I need to, I can side the Gazis out for like a Tapirmon or something like that. So you can play with these ratios around. It's these two and then Tapirmon I think are like really the only rookies I could see for purple. It's just which one do you feel is going to be the most impactful? Is going to be obviously the one you run the most of. I was originally just running four Gazi, and then four Dimera, but I like the going on the offense with the Elecmon at times. Just being able to take out a Bokomon, I think is huge. Just shutting those off to stop the yeah, you can use these to stop the two memory gain, but like just completely clearing it off the floor, off the field is obviously a little bit better than just kind of slowing him down a little bit.
Right.
And then, of course, the reason we play the four or the purple rookies at all is because of this card. This card is like my favorite card probably in all of BT7.
Hmm.
The Schwartz here. So for every Tamer and hybrid that you have on field, you can delete level 5 or lower. I mean, just massive board wipes. In the top cut, I went against the first place of Swiss for that day, so he was completely undefeated. And literally, this card is the reason I won. So I hard played one, cleared like half his field, and then he swung in and hit a second one, and then cleared the other half of his field. I mean, he just had this massive. I think it was like 5 or 6 rookies on field, and then one Azulongmon. So he was ready
Oh
just
yeah, he's
to
just
take
coming
me
for
to the
game.
shop.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So he was going for it, and then yeah, just having this card literally is like the ultimate equalizer. So yellow plays a lot slower than like the blue and green and red matchups. They like to go really fast. So we need to be able to combat the fact that they can just fill up this board really fast while we're still just setting up tamers and tamers and tamers. So this is the absolute best card for the yellow deck for sure. You can't really pull this combination off, I don't think, with the other colors,
Right.
just because they're not as fast. And also, we can keep putting these bad boys into security, and they hate it. All right, this was the big spice of the day that tons of people didn't see. It was watching like the streamers playback of games with me, and would see this card, and they were like, "Jack Raid, what?" Because most people expect Yellow Hybrid to play Blinding Array, right? So you get
Right.
that 2 memory guaranteed. But in all my testing leading up using Blinding Ray, it irritated me because I would always see it in security. I'd play my TK and I see that Blinding Ray and I'm like, crap, okay, I have to grab the Blinding Ray out of security because it does me no good in there. Um, and it always felt bad. It's like, man, I could have grabbed this other thing, whatever that other thing was at the time, but it always felt like I had to grab the blinding ray. Whereas if I see this sitting in security, I'm like, awesome, cool. That'll be a great card to get hit. Gain 2 memory security. So just like Hammer Spark, it serves that same purpose. But also, again, we're playing yellow, so our games go really, really long, and we'll have this massive security or massive trash. And so at one point, I went double jack raid, gained 4 while I had a memory fixer on field. So I'm at 7. I mean, now I'm in Susanoo range.
Right.
So, it's like blinding ray, but I don't have to hurt myself. So if the Susanoo one fails, right, if it dies in security, like first check or something like that, um, I didn't just trash 2 security for no reason. So
Right.
I get the same amount of value and more, I think, because I got that security effect also, and I don't hurt myself. So it just felt like the absolute better card to play.
Okay. I like that.
So next, getting into the rest of it, we got the 4 Bokomon. I know some people are only running 2. Again, this is a slow deck, so you can typically get through your deck, draw through it, and everything like that. But I just like the consistency that it brings to the table as a 4 of. Just being able to constantly search for everything I need. And there's plenty of situations where I've been where I need at least one recovery, just one recovery, and I'll be in a good position again. And I need a Jet Zephyrmon to do that. And then playing this card out, I can look at the top 5 and pick one out. So really good for just all that. I think the best decks in Digimon are the ones that are the most consistent
Perfect.
and that don't have to worry about bricking. And this is like a complete anti unbrick your hand, unbrick your deck sort of card. So absolutely play it literally just for that. The gain 2 memory on Evo is also really great. But again, we're really slow when it comes to Evoing up our Tamers a lot of the times. So the gain 2 is a little less important for yellow in particular, I think, compared to like blue and green and red. They really, really like Bokomon. But again, the unbreaking alone is great. And then when you are ready to go, I've seen players playing yellow, have like 2, 3 Bokomons on field. They'll Evo 1, and now they just plus like a billion memory, and then they just have so much that they can just completely steamroll. So
Right.
really, really like the multiple Bokomons on field. You can do some crazy stuff because you want to clear them off the field, but you also don't want to kind of waste your time clearing them off the field because they're just going to sit there. Your opponent's not going to attack with them or anything like that, so they're just going to sit there. But once you get enough of them on field, then you can make some crazy, crazy big plays. Next, we got the Kazimon here. This is just yellow's generic hybrid, no effects or anything like that. It's just a target. It's a target for Bokomon. It just works into the deck, gets our hybrids going. So nothing too crazy there. Next, we got Zephyrmon. Zephyrmon is, at first, I kind of just treated it like Kazi. It's just another 2 Evo cost hybrid. The 6,000 DP never really made that much of a difference, I would say, most of the time. And then also the gaining 3,000 to our security stack, I used to not really care about because I was always pulling my hybrids out, and so I would never have Digimon sitting in my security. I would just have a ton of Tamers and option cards. Um, but honestly, it came up so much when you play a long tournament, 6, 7, 8 rounds. You're going to start seeing value out of this because it's just you can't just not all you can't all pull your Digimon out of security. They're going to be in there, and sometimes you just really like to go into these guys. Like some decks, such as Jesmon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jesmon turns off all your options in security when it plays Delegate Plan. So you just go out into a couple Zephyrs, and you've got your Tamers in play, also giving you that 3,000 buff or your 2,000 buff off your TKs if you're running them. Your Digimon gets so massive in security that even Jesmon getting all of its buffs isn't going to be strong enough. So just one of the different ways you can actually take on Jesmon with this deck, I think,
Right.
is just buff up your security Digimon to infinity and beyond. Next, we got the Jet, and this is like I don't know the best card, best level 5 hybrid I think in the whole set. Just gain 1 memory. Like it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter if there's a Tamer in the evolution line or a hybrid in the evolution line. None of that matters. It's just you gain 1 memory as soon as you evo it, and that's or gain 1 security. Sorry, as soon as you evo it, and that's just really really awesome. No stipulation on security like Angelomon has. You just get to do it. And so most of the time you're going to evo for 1, which is also really awesome. But there's still plenty of times where I evoed for 3 and it didn't bother me. I got my 1 security, and that was great. So I don't. It's just an incredible card for sure. I definitely see why people called for it to get limited on the ban list a couple 2 months ago or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because after playing this deck a ton, like this card every time it comes out, it's just like, yep, that's insane amount of value for pretty much almost nothing. Next is Ryze Greymon. So this was one of the spots that I tested a whole lot in the deck. Like I was saying, I did the Angelomon for a little while, but early game Angelomon just feels dead because if you're at tons of security, then your opponent doesn't want to clear any security because if you have like a Duotamer on field, they don't want to mess with that. They don't want to lower your security any. So Angelomon is just sitting there dead for most of the game until you're struggling. Right at that point, your opponent's already tried to clear your security once. Maybe they hit into an option that stopped them, um, but now they're you're on a clock against them, and they're ready to push for game immediately afterward. So one Angelomon like in a dire situation is okay, but I think this is just generically more useful, more amount of the time. So just that when Digivolving, play a Tamer. We like our Tamers, especially playing them for free, because then we can go the purple option, and that's just one more target that we get to blow up. Um, Also, this deck has a terrible amount of offense. So when you are ready to push for game, and you're in a really good position to start pushing, you're only ever doing 1 security check. Unless you can get that Susanomon out onto the field and not pass turn, you're struggling to put through a substantial amount of damage in one go. So this giving security attack +1 definitely helps in that aspect for sure. And to kind of go with him, I ran the Seraphimon. So this was what I was talking about in the beginning about the safer card out of the megas I could have chose from. Uh, it was just a I get a recovery 1 and I get a security attack +1 pretty easily. Allows me to push for offensive really easily. 10,000 DP might feel low, but I think in this meta where it's just nothing but options and tamers and tons of hybrids and rookies, 10,000 DP is clearing most everything. So it never really was an issue to swing in with Seraphimon. 10,000 always felt fine. I'm checking 2, maybe 3 security off of him, and that was pretty awesome. An alternative would definitely be the Kazuchi for that, what is it, 5 Evo to recover up to 3.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're already at 3, then you get, what, 2 + 2 security?
Right.
So, I mean, he definitely feels like a good alternative to Seraphi. I just didn't have time to test him. I spent all my time testing like my option ratios,
Mm-hmm.
like the jack raids and things like that, and my purple rookie count. I spent all my time testing that I never got around to testing the Kazuchi, unfortunately. But I definitely think it's worth giving a shot. You start with just taking out 1 Seraphi, add in 1 Kazuchi, so you still get that recovery if you need it, and you're in that situation where you desperately need it. But if you're not and you're ready to go for on offensive push, then you can go into the Kazuchi for that offensive. So you still get the same basic thing that Raffi's bringing, just in a more powerful package, I would say. Um, but more situational. Like you have to be in the right situation. If you're ready to go offensive and you're at one or less, three or less security, right? Then you can't really go offensive with Kazuchi because that's going to be a massive 5 Evo cost. So it's just a trade-off. I think Kazuchi's more powerful. You just got to be in the right situations to get him active. Where Seraphi is just a little more vanilla, basic, not too fancy.
Right, just an all
Uh,
arounder type card.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Next, I went with 2 Dynasmon. I've fluctuated so much with my Dynasmon ratios. I've tried 1, I've tried 3. I like 3 if you're running the purple Kari. If I'm running purple Kari though, I'm probably not running the purple rookies and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that because that Kari is just going to sit there on the field and I'm good. Then I can run some other rookie color instead of the purple stuff. But in this build, I didn't run any purple Karis, so I didn't want to go too heavy on the Dynasmon. He's a great defensive card. You just throw him out there and then just let him sit. Don't use his Wind Digivolving ability unless you're in a really, really tight spot.
Mm-hmm.
The only time I use his Wind Digivolving ability is if I literally have no hybrids in hand and I know I can push for game on like the next turn and I've got enough tamers in play. I just need a couple hybrids in my hand. I'll use his ability to try to grab some hybrids. Also using his ability if I know if I just put a couple um, hybrids or tamers in the trash, I can go into a Susanomon. I'll on the following turn, I'll also go into Dynasmon and use his ability to do that to set up the Susano for the next turn.
Right.
But besides that, he's just there for defense. That every time you lose a security gain, or as long as you're at 3 or less, once per turn you can gain 1 back. That's huge. And if your opponent doesn't want to, deal with that, then they've got to put a lot of resources into removing him off the field. And removing a 12,000 DP mega can be kind of memory costly, or like cards. Just you have to waste so many cards just trying to remove him off the field. And then okay, now I can bring out my Susanomon because you already blew your big removal on the Dynasmon. So now I can go Susanomon without having to worry about losing my Susanomon. So just a good defensive card. He's probably one I wouldn't change. Like 2 of Dynasmon felt really good. Seraphimon, I think there's definitely argument for changes. Dynasmon, not at all. I think 2 is really really good, just because you need that defense. Like I said, this is a slow deck, so you need to be able to maintain that being able to play slow, and he's a great way to facilitate that. Next, I got the 2 Susanomon here. Originally, I only had 1. I only pulled 1 that first week,
Mm-hmm.
and I was waiting to get my second copy. And I was trying it with 1, and honestly, it was rough. I really needed the second because, again, we go so far in our deck here that we deck out. It's like kind of like Purple Loop kind of struggles to not deck out sometimes. We kind of run the same risk, and we need to be able to put 10 cards back in our deck. I think it was round 2. I was playing the mirror match, and literally the whole thing went to time. Game 1 went to time, and literally
Oof.
managed to win in time just because of being able to push fast enough. But literally the only reason we were able to do that is because we both Susanoed and refilled our deck so we could keep drawing. But when I only had 1 copy, if it ended up in security or anything like that, or bottom decked it because of like a Bokomon,
Mm-hmm.
that feels really, really rough. So having the second one just kind of ensures that you can get 1 in hand, at least at one point during a super long game. At some point, you should hopefully be able to draw into 1 Susanomon to sit on until you need it. And that's the main reason I played it, is because just refilling my deck. But there are plenty of situations where you could have that memory fixer and like 2 Duotamers, and that puts you up to 7, and that's Susano. Like that's as soon as you get in that position, you're just kind of waiting and waiting and waiting. We can't Mega Digimon Fusion anymore and do it super early in the game. We have to wait until we get that nice established board. We have our security in just the right position to trigger our memory or our Duo Tamers to gain us that 2 extra memory, and then you can Susanoo for game. So you got to be really, really patient with this guy if you want to use him offensive. But when you are patient like that, oh man, the payoff is so good. The 1 memory boost, So it's a good card. Even at one of, if you see it, you see it. If you don't, you don't. It's not the worst. If it gets hit in security, it's okay. You get that 3 memory. That gain 3 memory is huge. You can do some really, really powerful stuff there. Like Memory Fixer, Reinforce, and like one Jack Raid. Again, that's Susanomon right there. And then those situations where you're like, okay, I'm about to lose. I need something really spicy to hit my security right now. Let me play this out. Check the top two. Hopefully, I can get something really awesome like the purple option or a Wyvern's Breath. Something like that that can really just change the game. So it's a pretty good, I would say, kind of a desperate card. It's a really good desperate card.
Mm-hmm.
Next is 3 Wyvern's Breath. I just messing around with my option ratios. There was a lot of cards that I didn't like Holy Wave, just never felt good. So I ended up dropping the Holy Waves that I had in here. So I had a couple extra spots to throw some cards around in on my ratios. So I just went ahead and bumped the Wyvern's Breath up because there's some cards that if your opponent ever sticks them, you're just going to be so toast. A lot of it is really big stuff. So you got to be able to pull that big stuff off the field. Like if they stick a Susanomon but they can't swing with it, you got to Wyvern's Breath that before they attack on the next turn. Plenty of other things out there too. Like against Lilith Loop, if they stick that Mega or a Zwart, you really want to remove those cards before they can just tear you up. So Wyvern's Breath is kind of our go-to answer for a lot of those kind of cards. Same with Dynasmon. If your opponent sticks a Dynasmon, that's a really annoying card to get around. We can't push through a lot of damage really fast, so it takes us a couple turns to lower a yellow mirror match like low enough so that way we can push for game. So you got to be able to take a Dynasmon off the field because you don't want to give them just too many turns of too much value off those Dynasmons. So 3 for that. But honestly, moving forward, a change that I would make is drop 1 Wyverns and then add in 1 Shine. Like I don't play any Shine in this, and that's because I think the tech, that Argomon tech against Shine is so powerful, and I did go against it in one matchup, but thankfully I wasn't running Shine, so when they brought it out, it didn't affect me at all.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had been running Shine, I would have been, in a really bad position. But I think a one of is pretty awesome too, just because those mid-late games where if your opponent does get ahead of you and you don't have the purple option to set them back, Shine is another good alternative. He's almost like a fifth copy of that purple option,
Right.
if you want to look at it like that. So I think dropping 1 Wyvern for 1 Shine is probably the more correct answer, just because in this format, going wide seems to be really, really popular right now. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about just getting into one big, massive thing all the time. So I think being able to have more ways to deal with wide boards is the correct answer. Next, we got our Tamer package here. So we got the Zoe. Um, this is just your main facilitator for your hybrids, just getting them to go on play, get a search that security. I do play a lot of non-yellow cards in here, so there's been a few times where like TK feels really bad if you TK and you have no yellow cards, and you're like, okay, I didn't want to lower my security on purpose, so quite at this point yet. So that really kind of sucks. But if you go Zoe first, you can take a peek, and if you know you don't have anything targets for TK, you might hold off and you get a couple turns of recovery and then TK. So just getting that free peek first before you TK, that's pretty cool. Um, that 1,000 security or 3,000 DP buff on all your security Digimon, it's pretty nice. Like I said, like in those long tournaments, you start to see more and more value, I think, in that sort of ability. So that's pretty awesome too. Next is our Duotamers here. I know a lot of people only run this at 3, and I think that's absolutely the wrong choice. This card literally is the reason I do so well in this deck. Running this at 4 of is literally why I've won most of my matches, is because as long as I see more copies of this than any other Tamer,
Mm-hmm.
I'm set. Especially early game, I just keep playing a TK and Kari every single turn for like 2 or 3 turns. Your opponent does not want to swing at you if you've got 3 of these guys sitting on field. Like, it's just not worth it to them unless they're trying to literally OTK you, which most decks in this format can't really do unless they go into like these really massive boards. And this deck punishes that. So if I've got 3 of these guys sitting on field and they're ready to push for game, and they start swinging in and they hit that purple option, right? And that purple option nukes 3 things on their field, or however many. And now when turn does pass back to me because they weren't able to kill me, I'm gonna have a massive amount of memory every single turn. You can't beat a player that starts their turn at like 9 memory
Right.
every single turn. There's just
There's just
no
no
way you
way.
can come back from a player that can do that. Yeah. So I just it was huge, huge. The amount of plays I could do after my opponent would try to clear me, and I would have so much of these sitting on field. It was just yeah, awesome. Absolutely run that 4 of no questions asked anymore. Um, did have 3 of the TKs here, just our memory fixer. You gotta love the memory fixer for sure, being able to start at 3. I mean, same kind of concept of the TK car is like as long as you start your turn with a decent amount of memory, you can make some good plays. That's really great. Also searching your security, pulling out those dead cards. Right, if you're playing Blinding Rays, being able to pull those out, I think is really important. Being able to grab like a hybrid if you're in a situation where you desperately need to start evoing something up and you need whatever level 5, level 4, or even like your megas. So there's plenty of times where I've pulled out a Seraphimon. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go offensive. Let me check my security. Okay, cool. I've got a Seraphimon. That's the perfect card I need to go on the offensive next turn. Or again, if you want to play the Kazuchi-mon or whatever. Being able to add those, one-ofs that you might have that are chilling your security, get those out of there so you can actually use them. TK is so powerful for that. But even in those weird situations where you have a bunch of Duotamers on field and you and your opponent are matched on security, add the non-yellow card, deliberately lower your security, so on the following turn, you're about to trigger all your Duotamers on your own terms. So that also kind of comes up. It's a little bit more rare because when you do that, your opponent's like, okay, well, you're already lower than me. I might as well go on the offensive. So when you do that kind of play, just kind of be leery. Don't do it if they're in a position where they can like make you
Kill
suffer
you.
because of
Hmm.
doing it. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's it.
All right. What was it? I did want to ask. Oh, so for did you ever have a chance to test the starter deck TK? Just the one that just boosts the 2 drop.
I did initially. So I
Hmm.
was playing Shine at first.
Okay.
The like go heavy Shine. There's like 3 copies of Shine in the deck. I
Hmm.
wasn't playing any Seraphi. I just had the one Dynas and then like 3 Shine. And if I'm playing Shine, I really like the 2 drop. If I'm not playing Shine, I don't feel like I need that many Tamers, right?
Okay.
It's just kind of my logic there is, they are rookies on field, but I'm not evoing constantly on top of my tamers. They sit there for such a long time
Hmm.
that I get a pretty big board anyways. So whenever I'm ready to start evoing on top of them, I don't need the 2 drop TK just as a evo a hybrid on. I've only got 8 hybrids in the deck, and I've got what is that 11 tamers. So most of the time it feels really good because I can slow play. If I need to play really aggressive, then yeah, the 2 drop TK makes a lot of sense there. Or if you're playing Shine, the 2 drop TK makes a lot of sense just because you need as many yellow targets as possible.
I definitely understand. I guess that one is only good because you can pass turn and not give your opponent 3 memory, and then if you're playing Shine, then it's like a low committable card. That
Right.
just ends up being really strong because you just whiteboards and then your security is just even bigger. I could see.
Yep. And also, um, uh, since it's such a hybrid heavy format, there's a lot of memory fixers just in the
Mm.
format, so it's really difficult to choke, especially if the 2 main decks are gonna be blue and yellow. If that's the only decks you face for like 9 of your 10 opponents, there's a good chance they're gonna have the TK or the Davis on field to constantly set them back to 3. So choking is really difficult, I would say, in this format.
Right.
So it's not always a go-to. It's a good like beginning of the game kind of thing before they can draw into it. But like mid to late game, the choking is pretty much impossible. So
Right. I get that. All right. Well, is there any shout outs that you'd like to give?
I do want to shout out my two of my testing partners, Austin and Dalton. Like literally because they played with me so much, I really got to see it. Honestly, Dalton, I played him so many times against his Shine build,
Mm-hmm.
and I never beat it. That going into this event, I was like, I don't have a lot of faith in this deck, and I ended up taking third. So clearly, all that practice was good. But yeah, so definitely appreciated all that practice for sure.
Okay, well, thank you for coming on and talking about your deck and explaining. Definitely will put your link in the description. Uh, Congratulations and keep on winning, man.
Awesome, thanks.